Conversations across time, 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 across time, conversations across time, conversations across time, conversations across time, conversations across time, conversations.
Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Conversations Across Time. I think you're going to be a little intrigued by this. We are now talking about immigration and who or what America is and who are we. So, my first guest this evening is
Roy Cohn, American Attorney Extraordinaire, Chief Counsel to Joseph McCarthy's Senate investigations into communist infiltration. Person who made damn sure Ethel and Julius Rosenberg were executed.
okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Cohn. I see right now what's going on. I'm gonna have to smack you a little bit tonight.
Right there, yeah.
Seated next to Mr. Cohn is
Wangari Maathai. I started the Green Belt movement in 1977, and I am a professor.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. And one of the things that you are so modest about, how many million trees did you plant? You credited with planting 8 million trees.
Actually, now it's probably more than that.
Yes.
Because we're planting all the time.
We are so honored to have you here tonight because climate change does have a lot to do with immigration.
Yes, it does.
Yes, yes. And seated next to Wangari Maathai.
Bonjour. My name is Eleanor. I am the only woman who has ever been the queen of 2 countries. I am also the mother of many sons that became king of England.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure.
Mine.
Yes. And
I'm Hermann Goerring, Right Marshal of the Third Reich, successor to the great Führer Adolf Hitler, and the Commandant of the German Air Force Luftwaffe, Sieg Heil.
And tonight, Babette Josephs is here, and we are hoping, even though she has given us a notice, we are kind of hoping that you're going to be with us a little while longer.
I'm
We
working
so much
at
appreciate you.
Working at it.
Tonight is a special occasion, and we have just a fabulous guest.
It's true.
Yes,
True.
yes. And without any further introduction from why, the fabulous Josephine Baker.
Bonjour à tous, bonjour. Enchantée, mon ami. Je m'appelle Josephine Baker. I was born in 1906 in St. Louis, Missouri. I spent my entire childhood homeless and performing on the streets.
Oh my God.
I went to New York City and performed my first Broadway show, and then I went to Paris in 1925 where I fell in love with the city. I danced naked, I was adored by the people, and I became the toast of Paris. Enchantée!
You are we're so delighted to have you here.
Ah, merci,
so
merci.
Yes, this is going to be fun. Oh, wow. So, I think what I'm going to do is go to Hermann Goerring, because I have a question for you. Hermann Goerring, when you look at what is going on in the United States today, can I would just like you to explain how it makes you feel when you see, and clearly by the way that I'm wording this question, we already know I have an inkling of what you may say.
I see tremendous similarities between your President Trump and the great Führer. And one of the things I would say to the people of the United States is that things that occurred in Germany did not happen overnight. And you have people being detained in, no one likes to use the word in your parlance, concentration camps, but they are concentration camps.
Are you referring to the camps that immigrants are being housed in now?
Yes, they are concentration camps.
On the southern
Because
border?
we did the same thing. We rounded up the Jews, we identified them, political enemies as well as the Jews, communists and socialists that Mr. Cohn probably would have helped round up, and we put them in concentration camp. It wasn't until 3, 4, 5, 6 years later that we converted some of the concentration camps into death camps.
Okay, so the reason I just want to make sure that that's clear to the audience, because one of the things that Babette and I are hearing, and I think that there's something that obviously that Babette and I share a faith, and so as a result, we have a particular notion, and even though I'm African American and people try to understand, well, what does that mean? But there's a particular notion that we feel when we talk about people being persecuted because of religion. That's just, that we do share that. So whenever of late, when we've talked about what's going on at the US southern border, I certainly know I have, and I think I probably hear it more. I don't hear it as much as Babette hears it, rather. But it's kind of like, what kind of self-loathing Jew are you to say, to even dare compare what's happening on the southern border to concentration camps? So I want to make sure that the audience understands the difference between a concentration camp is.
The concentration camp is a place where we rounded up Jews and political prisoners.
And gypsies.
And communists and anyone else who didn't agree with the policy. And we held them there. Sometimes we used them for slave labor. However, we did not morph into death camps till much later. And the problem, and I would say to you right now, I was charged, and of course I committed suicide before I was hung, but I was charged with being a war criminal. And by definition, the people in your administration who are responsible for detaining these immigrants illegally, putting them in cages, are committing crimes against humanity. Now, you're not at war, so you cannot be charged as war criminals. But the same Geneva Convention that charged me with war crimes and I was going to be hung could charge any one of your administration officials with crimes against humanity, and that's what they're doing.
Okay, all right, so, okay, this is
Yes.
going to be a good one.
Yes, but impossible to enforce.
It's very difficult to enforce unless you win a war and capture the other people. If we had won World War II, we would have been the heroes, and Roosevelt and Churchill would have been the war criminals.
Yep.
So
I hear you, so
and
history
the-
is
the-
kind
the
to
thing
whoever's
that
writing it.
the thing
That's the
that
way it
I
works.
see, two things I want to warn the American people about. Number one, it's not happening overnight. It didn't happen in Germany overnight.
So it's these gradual encroachments.
Exactly, and by identifying these people as the other and having a mechanism to inter them and put them in camps
And treat them as animals.
and treat them, and the phraseology is the same: vermin, rats,
When you hear that,
infestation.
language,
It's the
yes.
same terminology that my
Wasn't
dear
there-
friend Joseph Goebbels used in all our
I
propaganda.
was getting ready to say, wasn't that a part of the propaganda
Yes.
machine that, and I mean, that the genius, I mean, you can talk about people who are evil, but at the same time, there is such a thing as an evil genius, and that's
maybe.
what I believe. No, when I
think
say that,
it's-
I mean that
I
everything
think it's
that
easy
the
to
minister.
be evil.
No, but here's the thing: to be evil, but the fact that they set about and used the media to disseminate a message that allowed the German people to go to sleep as Hitler was coming into power. I mean, that's it. I don't care what you want to say about it. It is pure evil, but it's very effective.
Damn right,
It's
it's
very
effective.
effective, and
why it's evil.
that is
What
what your
we-
statement means.
what
I mean,
we
do we
did-
understand what's going on here?
What we did, and I will say this because when we met, when Herr Goebbels and Herr Himmler and the great Führer met with me and we discussed this, we had to convince the German people to be more radically anti-Semitic. They were, you
And
know,
that's and identifying Jews
As the other.
as the other,
correct.
which
but
Dr. Adler
that-
talks about so much on this show.
That wasn't enough, so we made propaganda movies
Yes.
talking about infestation. They were
Yes.
rats. The areas they lived in were slums, inhabitable, and your President Trump does the same
Doing the
thing.
exact same thing.
Prior to your midterm elections, he talked about the people, the caravans coming across the border, and they're bringing disease, smallpox, and infestation. Now he talks about African American legislators who he disagrees with, ruling over infested districts in Baltimore and other cities. And this is the way you propagandize people to hate the other, because you dehumanize them. And once you dehumanize them, then it's all right to keep them in a cage, then it's all right not to feed them, then it's all right to exterminate them. And that's what if you don't stop it, that's what will happen here. And the technology, when I was in prison in Nuremberg, one of the judges who was also on trial during a lunch said to me, "It can't be. How could we kill 6 million? And I said, it's possible. Technology makes it possible.
Right.
And you guys got to deal with that.
Because of the state of our technology.
Right.
If I may, sir.
Yes, please.
You speak of media. I would hate to think that so many would hate me, but I did something very similar.
Yes. Wait a minute. But wait a minute. This is the interesting thing. Okay, so folks, you know, we like to play mind games here. And so here is a mind game for you, because as we're talking about the propaganda machine of Nazi Germany, the Queen orchestrated a media campaign. She actually had troubadours going around from village to village, entertaining the poor people as her gift to them. But what they were doing was actually feeding her propaganda to the people. Now, does that
As well,
okay, I'm
they
sorry.
and I should have. It was brilliant.
It was definitely brilliant.
That's the way
I
it
find no
works.
evil in.
Hey, that's the way it works.
I am
Whoever
just
owns the
making
media
comparison.
tells people what to think and how to think. That's how it
Excuse
works.
me.
And wait a minute, and Mr. Roy Cohn,
Yeah.
who would know that better than you?
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, hey, you can't underestimate the stupidity of the American people. I mean, they'll believe anything media tells them.
Now, can I make sure that the audience is with us on this one? Because
So what?
Mr.
They're not going to do
Cohn-
anything anyway.
Mr. Cohn was the Svengali who gave us Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, I
Now,
work
see-
with
That's to his credit. That's
I
to
work
his
with
credit. So
Donald
however
Trump.
you feel about,
I work
however
with
you
Donald
feel
Trump.
about
I worked with a
Donald
lot of the
Trump.
mob guys.
Sir, no, however you feel about Donald Trump, let us be clear. However you feel about Donald Trump, this is who you should credit him with. So
Thank you.
So
Hey.
Miss Baker, I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
Oh, I've
I
been
don't
holding
care
my
what a
tongue a
dancing
little
girl
too
thinks of me,
long.
okay?
Wait a minute, what'd you call her?
A dancing girl.
A dancing girl
Yeah, she
with
might
a
as well
mouth,
be a
with a
straight-
mouth and a mind.
Yeah,
and a
hey, you might as well be
voice.
swinging
And
from a
no
pole,
one
baby.
will ever shut me down, no matter how hard you try. And where's my camera? Can you show me which camera I'm on? Which camera? 1, 2, or 3? You? Can you zoom in on me? I have something to say to you and to Donald Trump. You need to stop what you are doing. You need to stop. And it's not funny, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
But there are children in cages right now, and you are done. You need to stop it.
Now, so my apology to
We
Ms.
had-
Baker for laughing, but when we booked her tonight with Mr. Cohn, we had expectations for you doing exactly what you did.
I tried.
Okay. No, you did. You
Well,
did.
she
Hey, you
makes
asked
the
for fireworks, you got it.
She makes the president sound like a little boy. That's why we left, because that's what he is.
Yeah, he is a little boy. I mean, he hasn't grown up a bit. I mean, I worked with his father. I worked with.
Wait a minute. So he is a little boy. Does he know that's what you think of him? Because he keeps telling people that where's my Roy Cohn? Where's
Right.
my Roy? He says that. He says that
All the time.
All the time. He says, "Where's
Yeah.
my Roy Cohn?" So does he know that that's how you feel about him? I mean, does he know?
I mean, hey, you have to tell him whatever he wants to hear. I mean, he can't handle anything he doesn't decide is reality. Like, he doesn't even type his own tweets.
Okay.
I'm just saying, that's who- that's-
The
yes.
end piece of your statement, just the end, reminds me of Donald Trump. Because there was nothing smart about the man from the beginning.
But the arrested
This Cohn was the smart one.
They didn't pay me to be smart.
The arrested development of Mr. Cohn and Mr. Trump and the Fuhrer was well known to everybody. The problem is our position to keep our power. We tolerated his arrested development.
Same thing.
The same thing, and I would say the
Same
leaders
thing.
of our party, myself, Joseph Goebbels, Heinrich Himmler, we all knew what Hitler was, and just like the Republican leadership knows what Trump is, but we wanted to keep our positions of power. We were sure we were going to be victorious, and so we never crossed him, even though he did things that were outrageous. He used to foam at the mouth and chew the rug. And from what I hear about your President Trump, he has fits of outrage.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he chews the rug also.
Pulls out his hair. His rug's on his head.
As much
in the morning.
as much as the leadership, the hierarchy in the Nazi Party, the hierarchy in the Republican Party, and other people too, are willing to tolerate it, that leads to the demise of the country, and that will lead to the demise of the United States. So people ought to wake up and not worry about their own power. And I was as guilty as anyone else in terms of how I profited by my position in the Reich.
It sounds like he's describing himself, and
Yes.
to me,
Right.
it seems that he's actually describing Mitch McConnell.
Well, I was the Mitch of the Reich. I was
Right,
the
exactly.
president of the Reichstag. I was the Mitch. I controlled the legislature. I was the Mitch of the Reichstag, which was the German.
You held the reins. You
right.
did the
There is
manipulating.
nothing new under the sun.
No.
That is true.
That-
Very true.
And the law is whatever the government says it is. I mean, that's the way.
We used the same tactics that you use, Mr. Cohn.
That's right.
Well, I purposely set the Reichstag fire and then blamed it on the communists so we can so the Fuhrer could gain control and take away civil liberties. We use the same exact tactics you use in the United States.
That's right. That's the way it worked.
But
Right.
wait a minute.
Whoa. That's the way it worked in the Red Scare after the Second World War. I mean, we were looking for communists on a bed, and let me tell you, that's how it's working. Worked in the past, it's going to work in the future.
But what I find very strange is that when you started to become ill, he pulled back from you, but you're still on his side.
That's the way That's
But
the
you
way
didn't-
it
wait a minute,
works.
Wait a minute, but you had no problem with the fact that, don't you think his pulling away from you had something to do with a topic that you just don't want to talk about?
What's that topic?
No, okay, I'm happy you said that. I'm so happy. Because do you not think that President Trump pulled away from you the way that he did as a result of him being homophobic? I mean, I know you don't like, I know you're in the closet, I get it. But the whole world out there, they all know that you're gay. And there's no issue. We don't really care. You'd be surprised
we
to
don't
know.
care.
No one cares.
People cared in
not
my,
why
in
we
my
don't like
generation, the 50s.
We
I
don't
mean, there
like
was a
you,
lavender
but
scare
that's not
too,
the reason.
along with the Red Scare.
Okay, I
So
have
for
another
political
question. Wait a
reasons.
minute.
It was a good way to
right,
hide.
for
No, Professor
political,
Mathai, yes.
for political reasons. But do you not think that he pulled away from you because you had AIDS? And at that
It was a
time,
liver disease. Liver cancer, okay? Liver cancer.
Wait a minute. Okay, well, let me just say this to you. I know that because you're traveling across time, there's something that you don't know about today's standards. Because today's standards, we view people who are suffering with AIDS, we view them as our brothers. I mean, that's how we see them. I mean, I know you might have saw them in a different time, but that's how we see them. And I know that in your mind, you're going to accuse me of being this communist, pinko, whatever it is. But whatever it is, today, by today's standards, we have concerns. We have concerns, and we have empathy, and we have all lost someone's that we loved. So your whole fact of being in the closet is kind of strange to us, because who we are today is we embrace diversity. There's nothing, we would have loved you. We would have accepted you as gay. I mean, embraced.
We would have embraced you, and perhaps that would have changed your life.
In
Perhaps history.
your era, they hung people who go that way too, so.
But that was not, but one of the things that was so cool about the Queen, and I guess she will tell you, is that one of her sons was gay. And she did not, yes.
And I did not throw him away. I did not mock him.
The people in your culture did, the people in your time did.
But I have
I
no
don't think
control
so.
over the people of my time. What I have was control over what I could portray with my little troops, my troubadours. But that was for my sake. That was politics.
So is politics.
No, but you understand, please, you got to give the Queen credit, because Eleanor de Aquitaine and her troubadours, what they established was a mindset that allowed, I don't know, remember how many years after your death, but it happened. That's where the Magna Carta came from. And the Magna Carta is where the Constitution comes from. So when you start saying to us that we are not Americans, when you tell us because we believe something different and because we accept something different that we're not Americans, then, Eleanor was the person that allowed us to be able to have a voice today. And we understand that. We understand, and we respect
Merci.
that. We
You
respect
know,
that.
I know damn well Donnie's got to make sure you don't have your voice.
And that's
he's
the-
going
and
to
that's
run
the
for a
scary
second
thing.
term, and when he's going to run for a second term, and when he wins it, watch out, it's going to be you and you guys that concentrate.
I am thinking, you know what I'm thinking? I am just wondering what Miss Baker, when she smacked you around earlier today, I'm just earlier tonight, I'm just wondering what she thinks about Donald or President Trump and his idea of a second term, and us being able to look at your legacy and know that a part of what his sickness has to do with that when you were on your deathbed, he didn't accept you. Right. And yet we all would. We all would. That's what things are. Of course.
You got the SA guys, they were all homos.
Well, we got rid of them pretty fast, didn't we?
Yeah, give Donald time. He's gonna get together a police force of evangelical Christians, whatever the hell they are, and he's going to round up all the homos and all the perverts and slaughter them. Watch out, he's going to do it.
I know.
We have no doubt that's what he wants to
So
do.
what are you
So
going to do about it?
I'm gonna let
Vote.
I'm gonna let our last word because I know this,
Participate.
yeah, that's what has to happen.
Yeah, but you got to arm yourselves. I mean,
No,
they got
okay.
guns too. Don't worry.
Okay, but hold on. This is exactly what happens with conversations across time, and that is that we run out of time. But we must, absolutely must. I think we have to give the last word to the fabulous Miss Josephine Baker. I think she deserves that.
That's
Yay.
Oh, oh.
Bravo,
Well, I'll
bravo.
try not to take everybody's time up, but the point of this episode and the subject, immigration, I have to go back to it. I'm a humanitarian, and it saddens me so much that these children right now are in cages, sleeping on the floor, without any diapers or health benefits or anything. They're running around, they're going to sleep hungry. I spent my childhood homeless. I would go to bed hungry. Now, I do have a question for all of you. How many of you do have children?
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
Many.
Yes.
Think about them.
I do.
Think about them. How would you feel if they were in that position?
Is that really true? Is this what is really happening?
Yep.
Wait a minute. What is happening is that there are children in cages. There are families being separated, and it's all there's this person who is in your legacy's ear by the name of Stephen Miller. And guess what?
Oh, yeah,
Stephen
yeah.
Miller is, I don't know what happened to that
It's a
boy.
shame he's a Jew, because he'd be a perfect Nazi.
Hey, what's about being a Jew, huh?
No,
Let's
okay,
forget
I
about
got
the
it,
Jew
I
thing,
got
okay?
it. But this is what I want to say to you. I want to be very clear to the audience. I'm sorry, I'm just that I'm leaving you in this state of this rage that I feel on the behalf of this country, but this is what I want you to understand. Stephen Miller is as sick as Roy Cohn,
Yep.
as sick as Goebbels, as sick as whatever you want to think about the Nazis, whatever you want to think about Hitler, you have to think this Goering is an evil man. And he sits here and says to us tonight that he thinks, looking back from his perch or up from his hell, he thinks that Mitch McConnell is his counterpart. I mean, thinks that that's his boy. So I want you to think that. I want you to understand. When you leave tonight, please digest this and understand we are really in trouble. And Babette, I'm so sorry. I think I talked more than I should have.
Never.
No. Well,
We appreciate every word, and we
Merci,
agree. We
merci.
agree. We would have said the same thing, but not as eloquently.
well, I don't know if it was eloquent. I just know that somehow it just sort of reached down inside of me. And I just hope, I really hope that our audience understands this. I hope you see this. I hope you see what you just saw here tonight. I hope you think about that. And I hope you do something. And what's that thing I want you to do? It's not only for you to vote, it's for you to take more people with you, for you to get 10 people to go. And then they get 10 people. And that's just all we're asking you to do. Because we are in a world of trouble. It's been Conversations Across Time, and I'll see you next week.
Conversations across time, 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 conversations across time. Conversations across time, conversations across time, conversations across time, conversations across time, across time. Conversations across time. Conversations across time.